Now, to talk more on this, we are joined by Mr. Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist, joining us from Bristol, UK. Mr. Gosling, good to see you again. Mr. Gosling, how do you see the truce agreement so far, and with the and who is to blame, and also what is the goal of the Zionist regime in Gaza and also the occupied West Bank?
Hey, well, that's quite a lot of questions all in one there. The goal of the regime, I think, is this expansion, the Greater Israel. I was quite pleased to post on social media a couple of days ago this 1922 map, which was drawn up in Britain, which exactly echoes Smotrich and Ben-Gvir's map of the Greater Israel, which includes, by the way, large parts of Lebanon, parts of Syria, parts of Jordan, etc. This is the ultimate aim back in 1922 of the Zionists. Now, they didn't quite manage to persuade the British that they would be allowed to have so much land, but this is actually what they're really up to. They just want to expand their borders, rather worryingly, like Nazi Germany wanted to do in the 1930s, and succeeded, first of all through political agreements such as the Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia, and later through simply military interventions, through charging in with tanks in the Blitzkrieg, and as they attack countries like Poland. And so, you know, what we've seen is political agreements to go into Syria. But actually what's really happening is, of course, this is a political agreement, so-called, to cover a military invasion. And I think so one of the reasons that we're seeing the ceasefire reasonably successful, and there's not so many Palestinians in Gaza dying as they were before, is because the Israelis are tied up in many other places, aren't they? So, you know, they're doing things. The Israeli military are up to their tricks in Syria, in Lebanon. We've recently, just over the last few days, seen a massive expansion of the Israeli attacks in southern Lebanon. There's political moves to completely disable Hezbollah and turn all of the defense of Lebanon over to the Lebanese army, which is very weak and pro-Western, rather than looking after its own people. So it's a complex business, but we must remember that we've seen around about 250 Palestinians murdered by the Israelis, even though we're supposed to have a ceasefire. So as some people here in the UK have been saying, the idea of a ceasefire is that the Palestinians must cease so the Israelis can carry on firing.
Mr. Gosling, what does it take to stop Israel's inhumane actions in Gaza? The role of the mediators here, or the guarantors, who is in charge of upholding the law? Because it seems that the regime does whatever it wants to do because it can.
Correct. I mean, we don't have a rule of law. It's a lawless country, as you, I'm sure, covered. We had last year the gang rape of a Palestinian prisoner, which was filmed, and that film was then released. And those soldiers that conducted that gang rape, the Israeli soldiers, they were just basically given a slap on the wrist and told it's okay, it's fine, because of the pressure put on them by the extremists, the chosen people, they call themselves. We're above everybody else. We don't have to do anything according to the law. So they're not subject, they don't see themselves as subject to the law or the same rules as the rest of the world. Israel is now a country where rape of a Palestinian is not really a punishable offence anymore. And we've seen, of course, the same with the Israeli courts' failure to deal with the corruption trials of the Prime Minister and war criminal in chief Benjamin Netanyahu. But in answer to what we do, I think we have to understand this concept of what there's being called now the Pax Judaica, which is this idea that the Israelis, I would call it Zionica actually, not Judaica, but it's the fact that the Zionist Israeli regime, what they've done is they've made sure that they've got their agents of influence in many countries paid. For example, the Labour Friends of Israel in the British Labour Party, which is a majority of the members of Parliament. The Conservative Friends of Israel, majority of Conservative members of Parliament in the British Parliament, are paid, well, you could say agents, but they're supporters of Israel. The same in the United States is going on. So this is, I think, what needs to be broken. In many countries, the Israelis have enormous influence through their paid friends who are lawmakers. But obviously, you know, this Pax Judaica needs to be broken. This idea that a hidden influence around the world, financial influence, you know, in politicians in countries, which obviously steers the military to, that needs to be broken. But I think the main way to stop the killing is really, the key is the United States. And the key is cutting off the $3 billion, or actually that's risen now to something like $15 billion a year in military aid. But I mean, there's also civil aid, that is to say, aid to the government, flowing into Israel from the United States. At the minute that aid is severed, Israel starts to fall apart. And that, I think, is what we need to see. And really, that's in Donald Trump's hands. If he's able to do that sort of thing, which he may not be able to, because it may be that he's simply being blackmailed by the Mossad and through the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein ring. We don't really know about that, but it certainly looks as if the Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service, have got something, a hold over Donald Trump. But anyway, I mean, he seems to be quite enthusiastic about the Israelis anyway. So, but as soon as the Democratic Party or anyone else in the United States starts to threaten to cut that aid, or to actually cut that aid to Israel, so the crimes of Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, Smotrich, and the rest of these people who think they are better than anyone else in the world, that they don't see. I mean, remember, we are all God's children, everyone on this planet, and this group seems to have forgotten that. The moment that aid is cut off, they will suddenly have to start accounting for some of these war crimes. So I think that is the most important thing that could possibly happen, is cut off that US aid to Israel right now.
As always, I would like to thank Mr. Tony Gosling for his analysis, historian and investigative journalist from Bristol, UK.
Thank you.
Mr. Gosling, thank you, sir.